All right, welcome back to For What It's Worth. We are talking about Bible prophecy, and we are talking about the wars that lead up to the second coming. And the next one I want to talk about is the war of Gog and Magog. It's found in Ezekiel 38 and 39. It is a war that a lot of scholars think happened sometime during the 7-year tribulation end times period. It doesn't really, when you read the end of it and you see how it ends, it doesn't really make sense that it happens during the tribulation, but rather that it leads up to it. It's a long passage. I don't want to take a lot of time trying to read through everything, so I'm going to just kind of give it to you in chunks, and you got a Bible, you can read it. So Ezekiel 38, 1 through 9 lists the nations or the peoples that are involved in this war that come against Israel, possibly Israel and their allies. But the names of these nations are Gog, Gog of the land of Magog, and then Meshech, Tubal, Beth, Togarmah, Gomer, Persia, Cush, and Put. These are all funny names. Where do they come from? Most of them come from the ancestors of Noah and where they settled on the earth immediately after the flood. So if you go to where they settled and you look at what countries are there now, that's kind of how you make the connection. So Gog, that one's kind of the most unclear one of who this guy is and where he settles. In the book on Revelation that I talked about a couple of videos ago by Aaron Fochman, makes a good case that Gog may be North Korea, as it is today. The area of northern China, Mongolia, Siberia, the outermost northern parts, and North Korea, which in today's economy, in today's geopolitical world, seems to make sense because they're the ones with any kind of power, influence, weaponry, soldiers. So if anything was to play out as it does in this passage, it makes the most sense that it probably might be North Korea that will fulfill the people of Gog, of the land of Magog. And he goes into the etymology of the word, where it comes from, and where the word where the Koreans get the name from, and it may go all the way back to these people who emigrated all the way out to the northern eastern parts of Asia. So let's say Gog is North Korea. Let's say, I mean, could be China, possible. They're a big player, right? Then Meshech, which is modern Russia. It's on the southern part of Russia, right by Ukraine and Armenia and that area. Tubal, which is right in Turkey, Armenia, on the border of Syria. Beth Togarmah, which is also the house of Togarmah, which is the son of Tubal, which is that same area, Turkey. Gomer, which is the area of Syria, modern Syria. Persia, that hasn't changed in thousands of years. That's obviously Iran. Everybody knows Persia is Iran. Cush is the area of Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia, down there south of Egypt. And Put is the area of Libya. So Ezekiel 38 names all of these peoples that are going to come against a land that is said to be a land of unwalled villages with no bars and gates. A thought will go into their mind to scheme an evil plan to go against these people and to carry off much spoil and plunder. So it says that they're going to do that. And then in verse 14 through 16, God says that they're going to come in with armies and tanks. Well, not tanks, but horses and chariots. And that would translate today in modern warfare, tanks and all the stuff that they got, missiles, whatever. And you will come up against the people, my people Israel. There we go. So Aaron Fochman looks at this and says, well, the first people that he's talking about of unwalled villages is the people of possibly Saudi Arabia, because they are in the Abraham Accords with Israel. And so even though they're not like besties, they are economically linked to each other today. And then when he repeats this again about a place of unwalled villages, then he names Israel. So it could be Israel and Saudi Arabia, or it could be just Israel. Most people think it's just Israel. But it makes sense that it could be. This is all could be, because none of us are real prophets that could tell you what all this stuff really means, except from what we can deduct through, cross-referencing the Bible. But it makes sense that that area of the world, Saudi Arabia, Israel, there's a lot of natural resources and lots of trade routes between the Indian Ocean, the Mediterranean, going from the east to the west. It's the crossroads of the world. Anybody who controls that area controls commerce, controls energy. And that's why America has been fighting all of these endless wars in the Middle East. It's not because we're trying to end terrorism. It's not. We could end terrorism very quickly. Okay? Donald Trump ended ISIS like that. No, it's about American interests having their grubby fingers in those parts of the world to keep the balance of power and to control the energy, because whoever controls energy controls most of the world. So that's why they're going to want to come against this area of the world. And it says they come to plunder, they come to take spoil. And it says they will come from the north. See, verses 14 through 16. They'll come when it's secure. They will come from the uttermost parts of the north into Israel. Well, the northern parts of Israel is known as the Golan Heights. It is a border between Lebanon and the area of Syria and Lebanon and Israel. And that's where they're going to probably come in and attack. And I think this might also be when Isaiah 17:1 is fulfilled, which is the prediction of the destruction of the city of Damascus. Behold, Damascus will cease to be a city. It will become a heap of ruins. Damascus has never ceased from being a city. It's probably known as the oldest city in the world that people have continually lived in. It is still a city. It's under fire right now because it's harbored Hezbollah. And Israel has been targeting a lot of things in Damascus. And there's going to be a time when Damascus is completely nuked off the planet, according to Isaiah 17:1. Nuke, probably. I'm just saying. That's the best way to wipe something off the planet today. They didn't know about that back then, of course. So it may be that when these nations come up against Israel and are trying to cross the Golan Heights, Israel makes it impassable for them by nuking Damascus and creating, such a destructive radiation there that armies can't get them. That's all possible. Damascus could be destroyed tomorrow. We could wake up and find out they nuked Damascus and Isaiah 17:1 gets fulfilled. Now, what's going to happen from there on out? God will intervene miraculously, according to verses 18 and 19, as we move on through 20 and 21 through 23. These verses talk about how when the Gog and Magog, Cush put all these guys, when they all come against Israel, that God is going to knock the bow and the arrows out of their hands, that their weapons are going to fail. He's going to be roused to anger, and then there will be a great earthquake in the land of Israel. That's going to just tear the mountains up, and there's going to be this great earthquake. And he says that there will be confusion amongst the armies, that they will turn their hands against each other and kill each other, kind of like what happened when Gideon went up against his enemies and those people turned against each other. Same kind of tricks God has in his arsenal of miracles that God used in the Old Testament, like he did with Gideon and when they destroyed their enemies at that time. He's going to use them again. And he's going to summon, verse 21, the sword against Gog on all my mountains, declares the Lord. Every man's sword will turn against his own brother. I will rain upon him and his hordes and many people with torrential rains, hailstones, fire, and sulfur. So God's going to use even nature and maybe some fire and brimstone from heaven to knock out the weapons that these guys are trying to bring on to kill Israel. And I will show my greatness and holiness in the eyes of many nations, and they will know that I am the Lord. Nations are going to see Israel has God on their side, and they can't be beaten. Their missiles will be shot out of the sky and drop out of the sky and be rendered ineffective by God's intervention. And Ezekiel 39 verse 2 says that he will strike the bow from the left hand, and the arrows will drop out of your right hand. And you shall fall in the mountains of Israel, and you and all your hordes and the people who are with you. God's going to do a great slaughter and save Israel from the hordes of people coming to take over. These weapons are going to fail, and they're going to be used as fuel for the next 7 years. Verse 7 through 9. Those who dwell in the cities of Israel will go out and make fires of the weapons and burn them, and they will have fires for 7 years. This is really interesting because that 7 years has to fit somewhere, okay? Because you can't just be some random war, some random 7 years. This has to fit in some way. When God gives us numbers, he expects us to put them together and make it fit, because there's only one 7-year period left that is dealing with Israel, and that is the 70th week of Daniel, and this fits happening right before and right up to that 7 years when it begins. And so they're going to have free nuclear power for 7 years after using the weapons that were supposed to be used against them and turning them into fuel. And so then after that, for 7 months, they will have to bury the dead, because there will be so many of them around the mountains of Israel. Verse 12 through 15 explains this. And after 7 months, they'll send out another search crew. And at the end of the 7 months, they will make their search. And when they travel through the land, if anybody sees a human bone, then he shall set up a sign by it till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Magog. This may be because they're nuclear radiation infected. I don't know. But they're going to be utterly destroyed trying to come up against Israel. And so then after that, it says, I will, verse 25, I will restore the fortunes of Jacob and have mercy on the whole house of Israel. Now, I think this is a temporary victory that's going to lead to the salvation and restoration of Israel, because there's another passage in the book of Micah, chapter 5, that shows this conquest of Israel winning, and then the tides turning against them by God himself. Check this out. Micah 5. Let me just say, insert. This is why you talk to the all-mills and the guys who don't believe in any of the literal fulfillment of this stuff. They're not going to talk to you about this, Micah 5. They don't know where to put this. We got to know what God says in these minor and major prophets, because all this stuff comes together. All right, Micah 5. Then the remnant of Jacob shall be in the midst of many peoples, verse 7 through 9. In the midst of many peoples, like a lion among the beasts of the forest, like a young lion among the flocks of sheep, which, when it goes through, treads down, tears in pieces, and there's none to deliver. Your hand shall be lifted up over your adversaries, and all your enemies shall be cut off. Sounds like great news. Israel wins. Nobody can beat them. They're like a lion. Nobody can fight against him, because he tears them to pieces. His hand is against all his enemies. But then it turns immediately in verse 10. And in that day, declares the Lord, I will cut off your horses from among you and will destroy your chariots. Wait, what? God is going to destroy their horses and chariots? And I will cut off the cities of your land and throw down your strongholds and cut off your sorcery and your fortune tellers and your carved images and your Asherah, and destroy your cities, it says. Like, what's going on here? Israel's just won and beat all their enemies, and now God's going to come in and tear things up. And then it says, in the anger and wrath I will execute vengeance on the nations that will not obey. So he's going to get all the other nations too. What is this? How does this fit? This is probably referring to that end of the Magog war, where they finally beat all their enemies and they have a lot of confidence in themselves, in their own chariots and horses and cities and fortresses. And God says, now I'm going to knock all those down. I'm going to make all those ineffective. And I'm going to save you. You're going to see that I am the Lord. And I think that's referring to that final confrontation in Jerusalem when the abomination of desolation is set up and Jesus himself returns and leads the remnant as he purifies Israel. A lot of them are going to die. And the ones who believe, the 144,000, the ones who believe the two witnesses, will flee to Basra in the wilderness. And Jesus himself will save them and preserve them throughout the next 3.5 years and purify them and cleanse them and prepare them for his kingdom. So, possible scenario. How's this all going to go down from today onward? I think we're seeing the end of the Psalm 83 war that has been going on since the 1950s and 60s against all those enemies. Go back a couple of videos. I explained that. I think we're seeing the end of that. And Israel's going to have a little bit of reprieve, a little bit of peace that they think they've just won. And that's when this Gog of Magog is going to say, look at them. They think they're secure. Let's go get them. Let's go secure the oil. Let's go secure the gas. Let's go secure that whole trade route so that we can be the dominant power. And we can come up against the West. And they're going to come and they're going to do this. And then this Ezekiel 38 incident is going to happen. And then they're going to look like they're the great Lion of Judah. They are the ones who nobody can defeat. And they're going to have another reprieve and a peace that will lead them right into the 7-year tribulation, as I don't like to call it that, but that's how we all think of it. The 7-year time of Jacob's trouble, because they're going to have that first 3.5 years of what they think is peace. The Antichrist is going to rise up during that time. They're going to probably think he's the Messiah. They're going to start building their temple, if it's not already being built by this time. They're going to start their sacrificial system. And they're going to think good times are here, and that their eschatology, as they see it, as Israel sees it, they think they're going to be at their golden age at this point. And then it's all going to turn around on them at the abomination of desolation in the midst of that 7-year period. And that's what's going to happen. And then 3.5 years of that, Armageddon happens at the end. And I believe that we as Christians are going to see this play out. We're going to see this all happen right before us. And those who have eyes to see and ears to hear and are open and are watching and are looking and comparing their Bible and saying, this is all going on, look up, your redemption draws nigh. The wars, the rumors of wars, all the stuff that's going on is setting us up to see the day approaching for when the abomination happens and Christ very shortly after returns and gathers his church and rescues Israel. I think that's where it's going. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next week when we have our election. Either way, Trump wins, Kamala wins. Either way, America is in for a rough ride. I don't want to get into all of it. You know, the inflation, the dollar that's just super inflated, the economic crash that we're probably going to have, the civil unrest that we're going to have with either candidate winning. If Kamala becomes president, we're going to head into a serious, I don't even want to say the word. I'll mix the letters here. A visceral war, for the sake of YouTube getting flagged. I can see that happening because Kamala is completely behind on all the swing state polls. She has no momentum. Trump is just carrying it away. He's expected to win, but if they pull some shenanigans like they did in 2020, I could see the whole country plunging into disarray after she wins. And of course, she's an incompetent idiot. So whatever happens on the world stage, she's going to fumble it completely. Now, if Trump wins, I can see us still having visceral war because the other side is going to have a complete meltdown, breakdown. I heard somebody say we're going to have the biggest mental health crisis ever after Trump, if Trump wins. And there's going to be cities burning, and there's going to be unrest, and they're probably going to try to not certify the election. They're going to do all the stuff on January 6th this time that they accused the other side of doing last time. Okay, it's going to be a mess, and that's going to set us up for the instability on to make us irrelevant to all of these developments that are going on to fulfill Bible prophecy. And if World War III, like I'm saying here, is the end of Psalm 83 and Ezekiel 38, all of that comes together and World War III breaks out or develops as I think it already is, and we get caught up in it, it's going to be all bad for us. And we're not going to come out like we did in World War II and have a new, wonderful age. It's not going to be Leave It to Beaverland again. And I sure hope none of that stuff plays out. But I'm bracing myself and hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And I'm not really scared. I'm not really worried. I mean, if bad times are coming and all this stuff is going to break out right in front of us, I'm excited because Jesus is coming soon. And I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to get this over with. I'm looking forward to coming back with him and ruling over this world in whatever little share that he gives me. And I hope that's your hope too, and that you're preparing. So, see you on the next one. Yes, before I go, I forgot one thing. There is a mention of Gog and Magog at the end of the book of Revelation in chapter 20, verse 7. And this one gets confused with the other Gog and Magog. And people like to flatten it out and say this is all the same thing. It all happens at the end of the everything. This is at the end of the millennium. At the end of the millennium, when the 1,000 years are complete, Satan will be released from prison and will come out to deceive the nations, which are the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for the war. And the number of them is like the sand of the seashore, and they came up on the broad plain of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints and beloved city, and fire came down from heaven and devoured them. And the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and brimstone, and where the beast and the false prophet are, and they shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. Okay, finally, Gog and Magog are finally gone. They're a problem. Now, when you talk to people who think about kind of like the amillennial view, they think Satan has been bound for 1,000 years, which is really more like 2,000 years. And that when the end comes, Christ comes, and this war of Gog and Magog that's in Ezekiel 38 is the same thing as Revelation 20, and God's just going to wipe the floor up with them and fire down from heaven and gone. And Jesus wins, it's all gone. It's kind of a flattened view of this. It doesn't really take into account the details, because details don't matter. It's just kind of it's all allegory, it's all picture language, doesn't matter anyway. But that's not, when you understand, remember we talked about before, when you understand the double fulfillments, the types and then the fulfillment of the type, this is another one that hasn't even happened yet. We got the first Magog Gog war that's bound to happen. And then there's like the double fulfillment of it happening again at the end of the millennium. So that's what I think that is. That there's that one last rebellion after the 1,000-year reign of Christ. And God, at this point, just barbecues them all. And there is now, after chapter 20, there is no more rebellion, no more sin, no more unbelief, no more any of that stuff. It's all done by that time. And we get to the new heavens and the new earth, and eternity, whatever that's going to look like. So, little bonus